Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
Good evening and welcome to a brand new episode of Biz First in Focus here on TV1. I'm Shahin Jurampati, your host this evening, and today we're going to talk about one of the key driving factors in Sri Lanka's economy, tourism. Now when you speak about tourism, there's like a ton of questions that spring into your mind. Are the authorities doing enough to promote tourism in the country, generate tourism in the country? Is the tourism industry in Sri Lanka sustainable? And are the authorities doing enough to protect the resources that attract the tourists into Sri Lanka? And is the government attracting the right kind of tourists? Now to talk about these matters, we are joined by a person who is no stranger to this industry. He is currently the director of the Center for Economic Research and Industry Policy Analysis. He is a current coordinator of tourism studies at the University of Colombo and has been so over the past 10 years, and is also a senior lecturer at the university and has been so for the past 26 years, and has served in high positions in the government authorities, serving as a Director General for the Human Resource Development for Tourism and Hotel Industry at the Ministry of Economic Development for 2 years, from 2010 to 2012. He is Dr. Suranga Silva. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, like I said, tourism is one of the key driving factors of the country's economy. So how do you think the tourism sector right now is doing in Sri Lanka? How is it faring?
I would like to justify the sentence you said. Tourism is a very important sector. Actually, it is a driving force of the country. Very importantly, I would like to mention that tourism industry has been recognized by since years. Actually, now we started informal tourism 1967 after establishing the tourism bureau, tourism bureau. Then after that, we gradually increased the tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka. Example, at the beginning 1967 we had only 18,000 tourists, but after that now it has become a 2.5 million tourists. So in general, tourism industry is a multifaceted, a multi-connected industry. When you want to buy a shirt, you don't need to worry about the culture or nature of the country, but tourism industry is connected with all aspects of the economy, society, and even the politics. So that is why this is very important. If you can grow the tourism, if you can develop the tourism, it would definitely make the significant effect for Sri Lanka to economic development.
Dr. Silva, the government made impose a target for the year 2017 to attract 2.5 million tourists by the end of 2017. However, statistics at the end showed tourists, the number was just over 2.1 million.
Yes.
So this is just below the number that we achieved. So some would say this is a failure on the part of attracting the required number of tourism numbers that we need.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that, Doctor?
Thing is, I want to say that numbers we have put in some sort of marketing campaign. At the same time, number of tourist arrival is not important. That's good, but not good enough. But basically, we are focusing on a particular number. Why? Because it's the marketing purposes. But achieving the number may not be the right achievement. Actually, we want to think about what type of income we can generate from tourism industry. Now, the number token has already been outdated in many countries. Example, Australia, they don't talk about the numbers. Token number is useless, but token the income and value addition for the economy, and how that money can be remain in the economy is the most important. In that manner, I think 2.5 million is expected, but achieving the 2.5 million is not easy, especially under these conditions. But when you look at Thailand, Bangkok, 22 million tourists come per year, the Bangkok only. So therefore, number is important, but not the only factor we can decide whether we are growing very well or not. But in general, this year we have seen that tourist arrival growth declined significantly. It is 3.2. Actually, it is the lowest one recently. But it doesn't mean that in next year we don't have tourists. There will be up and down. I think this is the one reason. Actually, we have seen this year, because of the various factors, decline. But next year there will be a good number of tourists.
Doctor, now you said something absolutely correct. You said numbers do not matter.
Yes.
However, the government that's the key figure they keep harping on. This is the one they say we have had significant tourism growth.
Yes.
But speaking to so many experts in the past on the show as well,
yes,
they said it's just like you said, the numbers are not important. It's what they bring into the country.
Yes.
Do we want the backpackers and the surfers, or do we want the big spenders, the
Yes,
the big businessmen?
Yes.
So what does government have to do to generate the tourists with the big pockets rather than the tourists with the smaller pockets?
Even if you say the big pocket tourists are coming, but there is also doubt right now, because they are spending money in Sri Lanka, but the money is not remaining in Sri Lanka. So that is also a big problem.
Why do you say that?
So now, if you have a lot of import leakages, the money will be going back to other countries. If those money, we are taking big amount of money to the country, but those money can be leaked out from the country. That is also very dangerous.
What do you mean by, could you specify this, doctor? What do you mean by leak out?
No, in economics we call import leakages. It means that, assuming that I have done a survey, kitchen operations, especially hotel industry, what we have found that more than 60%, no, around 51% to 60% of ingredients we are using for the 5-star hotels are imported. So ultimately what is happening, we are making money, but those monies are going back to the other countries. Therefore, I agree with you, we have to think about the numbers, but good but not good enough. But at the same time we have to think about the income. Yes, okay, income is very important, but remaining income is the most important in Sri Lanka. That should not be undervalued. Example, we have been seeing that a lot of hotel chains are coming, they are developing their hotels, a lot of operations are coming, but the remaining money in Sri Lanka is a questionable. So we have to think how we can increase the value added of tourism industry. That is very, very important. The last one is very important. Even though we have kept a lot of value added of Sri Lankan economy, it doesn't mean that it's fairly distributed. So therefore we have to find out the strategies to fair distribution of tourism income among the key stakeholders. Example, we can run a good travel agency and transport facilities. If we can use the world ranking transport facilities, taxi service in Sri Lanka, yes, it's good for the customer satisfaction. But what is ultimately happening? Our three-wheel drivers' income will go down. So therefore, this is very complex scenario. We have to increase the number of tourists because that is the marketing purposes. Second thing, we have to increase the income, tourism income. Third thing, we have to increase the value added of tourism income. At the same time, we have to ensure that this is fairly distributed among the nation or the key stakeholders of the industry.
Dr. Silva, again, now you spoke a lot about increasing the value of Sri Lanka tourism. Could you define how we can increase the value of Sri Lankan tourism?
Yes, one thing we should not undermine that actually this TSP, Tourism Strategic Plan, it is very clearly mentioned those areas, I think. But basically, so if you really want to make Sri Lanka tourism is growing in this sustainable manner, we should not undermine the Sri Lankan characteristics. But if you are going to improve the Sri Lankan characteristics in Sri Lanka tourism, that automatically keeps more money from Sri Lanka, money in Sri Lanka. At the same time, it will retain the money with our economy. It will fairly distribute among the country. Example, now we know that a lot of investors are coming. It's very important because Shangil has started their business. Means that all industry will recognize Sri Lanka is a very important destination. Why Shangil has invested money? That is their critical actual business analysis. Shangil has done this one thinking that in future Sri Lanka would be a very valuable destination in the region. That is why they invest money. So the Move and Pick, other hotels have already started their business. That is a good sign. We can see the prosperity is coming. But we have to be very careful because tourism industry itself is a vulnerable industry. A small incident happen outside of the country, the whole industry will be finishing. Therefore, we have to be well focused and well managed how we are going to resource allocation. That is very important for sustainable tourism development of the industry.
Well, Dr. Silva, hold on to that thought. We're going to cross over for a short commercial break. You're watching Biz First in Focus. We're joined by Dr. Suranga Silva, a very prominent figure in the field of tourism. We'll be back after the short commercial break. Stay with Biz First in Focus. Hello, welcome back. You're watching Biz First in Focus and we're joined by Dr. Suranga Silva. We're talking about an important aspect of Sri Lanka's economy, tourism. And last when he spoke, he said Sri Lanka has to do more to maintain and not to undermine its own heritage. Dr. Silva, that is a very interesting statement that you make. Right now, do you think Sri Lanka is not doing enough to maintain its existing heritage and rather moving away from its heritage and cater to the Western tourists? We are changing our own culture.
No, I don't agree with your statement. I said, okay, we should have done a lot. Actually, in economics, we have a potential and actual. The potential capacity to develop our tourism is very much high, but the actual capacity is different. But people are talking the number of tourist arrivals are actually coming to the capacity ceiling. But look at Singapore now, 21 million tourists. We are focusing on only 5 million, 4 million by 2017. So 21 million tourists in small city in Singapore. Have we seen any problem of the population density? No. That is where we have to think. Our management has problem. If you go to the park, the problem is our crowd management. That is why. But basically, I want to tell you, we know that there is a tourist season we are having that is abnormal season. That is not usual season. When Western countries getting warm weather, they don't need to come to Sri Lanka. But we have a season that is a July season. Why? Because of the Candi Perahera. So why Candi Perahera create a new season? Because Candi Perahera is not a disco dancing. It is our authentic cultural dancing demonstrations. That is why many tourists are coming to Sri Lanka during that period. Otherwise, no Western tourists to come to Sri Lanka for thinking about climate changes because they have a summer weather. So that is why I am telling you, if you develop Sri Lankan authentic tourism, our marketability and the competitiveness of the market in the product is very high. If you are going to develop the same product like Western countries, we call a homogeneous product, then we will have a big problem how to market the product. The authenticity of the product is somewhere, but we are doing the same thing. Example, we are making a certain dance in here, right? That is actually, they have been doing every day that one. No attraction, but we have to make certain attraction, our dancing for their needs, our cuisine for their needs. Now, Dr. Publish is doing it very well. So basically we have realized that when we are segmenting and promoting and branding Sri Lankan authenticity, Sri Lankan identity, there is a good demand. Otherwise, we are making a sameness product, homogeneous product, which can be available any part of the world. No point of marketing that one, no point of expecting large number of tourists are coming to Sri Lanka.
Now, Dr. Silva, during the break I was talking and saying that Sri Lanka has so much to offer. It has multi-dimensional diversities in Sri Lanka, multi-cultures like you said, multi-climates and so on and so forth, compared to other countries like UAE, for example. UAE is plain desert, but they have so much to offer in terms of tourism. So Sri Lanka, like I said, we have the forests, we have the mountains, we have the beaches, we have everything that we possibly need to generate more and more tourism.
Yes.
So how come we are, like you said, how come we are still aiming for the single-digit millions to attract tourism in the year?
No, I still remember that when Professor Kotla came to Sri Lanka, he made a very good, valuable statement. By looking at Sri Lanka, when he was flying by helicopter, he said so much in so little. So that word came from him because of the real situation. He said, when you look at Sri Lanka, there's a compactness, authenticity, diversity, and good people, and good clean environment. That is why he said like so much in so little. But what I'm telling you that, yes, we have so much. But unfortunately, one Japanese professor said me, you are a very good nation telling that you have potentials. But the bad thing is, you are keeping the potential as a potential forever. You are not tapping the potential, utilizing the potential. Example, some countries, they are using dark night for tourism. They go to one place, especially Japan, see the switch off all the phone and see the beautifulness, calmness of dark night. They are looking at the skies and calculating the stars. So, what is the possibility of promoting that one? Example, Kerala, they are promoting monsoon tourism. When they have heavy raining, they are selling that one. My question is, we have enough training, but nobody thought how to promote rain as a market product. I believe that our private sector's innovative skills are very lacking. So actually we should not blame the government. The private sector must come forward, because we are expecting from the private sector they must be more innovative, creative. The creativeness is very important for tourism. Even though we have a lot of potentials, don't think that potential can attract the tourist. Attraction cannot attract the tourist. Attraction make accessible, and attraction based activities must be promoted. But unfortunately we are keeping the attraction same. We are asking the tourists to come to that place. But attraction cannot make a full satisfaction of tourists if there is no proper activities. So example, Sigiriya. Sigiriya, what is happening? Climbing the Sigiriya. But there should be many activities. But unfortunately we have to be more creative, more innovative. We must understand the customer's need first. We have the product development should be focused on the customer need. Example, now have we seen any authentic souvenirs in Sigiriya? I was in Australia, I went to Aboriginal village. Aboriginal leader signing it on my t-shirt, putting his own signature. So what is happening? We have plenty of resources, potential we can market. Unfortunately, we don't know how to market with the activities. We are island country. How many activities we can develop for tourism based on the beaches?
But Dr. Silva, now you say we don't have the proper marketing capacity to do that. But not too long ago, I think just early last year, Minister of Tourism John Amarathunga appointed an elite committee to assist the tourism drive until 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So and this committee had the big names, quite well known names. So I mean, pretty sure they are involved in the private sector as well. So what is happening there as well?
I want to ask you, for the marketing, what is the most important thing? Important thing is research.
Absolutely.
You can't market any product without doing research. Have we seen any researchers inside of that one? Have we done any research based on before the marketing? The research is very important. Without a research component, you can't do any marketing. How do you know the customer needs? How do you understand the customer changing patterns of demand? How do you understand the bottlenecks of the supply chain? How do you understand the community involvement of tourism? So therefore, most important part is the research. If you have a good research finding, you have an innovative approach for that one. The research is the most important. I think that is a very good, valuable attempt, endeavor the minister has taken. But I think one of the most important thing is we have to combine the research, innovation and tourism development. If you take only marketing cannot be done without having proper research. So we have a lot of universities here, including my university. We are doing a lot of research. We would like to combine the research input with the industry decision making. Actually, the minister has taken a very valuable effort on that one. Last year we had a very good summit. The ministry and the minister has given us full support for that one. Even though these things happening, it is not too late. I think we have to find a very good strategic approach to enhance the research capacity of the industry and making the decision based on the research, not by the rule of thumb. That is very important.
Well, these are the important questions that we need to know. Is the government doing enough? Are we doing enough to generate more tourism? And is the tourism industry sustainable? And are we marketing our product even better? And even more importantly, are we researching the possibilities? More on this coming up after this break. Stay with Newsfirst in Focus. We are joined by Dr. Suranga Silva. Stay with Newsfirst. Hello, welcome back. You're watching Biz First in Focus. I'm Shahan Rampade, and we were talking to Dr. Suranga Silva on the important aspects of tourism, what needs to be done to generate more tourism in the country, and what needs to be done to income the revenue rather than the numbers coming in, and what type of tourists we actually need. Dr. Suranga Silva, you said there's something wrong with the management. There is no point just marketing the product. We have to research on the product as well. Having said that, not too long ago, I think, just early this month, a top member of the Sri Lanka Tourism Bureau, the chairman, as a matter of fact, was asked to resign because the required targets were not achieved by. This decision was taken by the minister himself. So do you think such instability or distrust among the government bodies within them is causing an issue among ourselves itself, causing a reason for tourists not to come to Sri Lanka?
Let me start this answer in different way. But when you look at the TSP, Tourism Strategic Plan, it is very clearly mentioned that 4 failures are the main stumbling block for sustainable tourism development. One is resource failure, market failures, coordination failures, institutional failures. But I would like to add another failure that is very important than those 4 failures. That is attitude failures. So that has not been taken into consideration. I think attitude is very important. Whatever we are doing, the people attitudes, organizer attitudes, association attitudes are very important. But when you look at the chairman, actually the removal chairman, it is not in my area. But I want to tell you that the consistency of the work is very important, because now we have been changing our slogan, market slogan. Truly Asia, then different wonder of Asia, different thing now representing Sri Lanka. Look at this changing. Tourists would be so upset. What is this? We have 12 themes, different themes. We don't. That is customer mind
causing insecurity.
Yes. Because of the marketing insecurity that is happening. Therefore, we have to be very careful when we are changing different things. But I don't have any idea on this one. But I got to know that he was actually removed from the post. But it is actually depend on various factors. But I am telling this one, consistency and going one themes and focusing the right customer, right time with the right attitude is very important for tourism development.
Doctor, like I said before the break, Sri Lanka has a lot to offer in terms of its resources it has. Now we have a lot of wildlife involved as well, and there not too long ago, just in the recent past, there were a lot of tragedies which have taken place in concerning the wild elephant resources that we have. So the failure of the authorities to do enough to protect these wild beasts and majestic beasts, is it causing us an obstruction in achieving the number of tourists, the kind of tourists we need who are interested in that particular segment of tourism?
Actually, the wildlife protection is not to totally belong to the tourism industry. It is actually involved with the various stakeholders, even the wildlife authority and the people and the other organization, part of tourism. Therefore, this, when we really want to protect the wildlife, we have to have a holistic and the coordinated effort. That is very clearly mentioned in the TSP. The coordination is very important. What I realize is that even when we look at the wildlife, especially elephants are being killed by people, there is no involvement tourist. Actually, if people are organized, we can stop most of the bad gearing activities happening in tourism industry and even wildlife industry. I think the biggest problem is people must be organized. People must understand this is your income, this is our income, we should not destroy. For example, Dalaputta incident. Look at that one. Dalaputta was one of the best resource assets we could market for tourism. We missed the golden opportunity. We kill and take the tasks. But unfortunately, what is happening? We lost the huge potential we had promoting Dalaputta for tourism. That is why I am telling you, there should be a very important thing. We should not forget awareness. If people know, if the operators know that their income is dependent on the proper wildlife, they will never ever destroy the wildlife. Unfortunately, there is in the market system we call the self profit motivation. That has to be changed certain area. Why? Because they must understand, if they don't want to protect the public property like wildlife, the whole people, those who involved in tourism industry, will have to suffer in future. For example, one professor came from China. Actually, one professor invited him from China. Then when he was going back, I asked, "What do you want, professor?" He said, "Sir, I don't need anything. You give me a small bottle and give a fresh air to inside. That's enough." So look at Chinese, when they come, what they are looking at the trees, they are looking at the skies. Why? Because most of the tourists like to see the green environment. We can brand Sri Lanka as a country. You can have fresh air with green environment, with the good hospitality. These are the 3 ingredients we have. We have to capitalize this opportunity. Unfortunately, because of no coordinated, integrated effort for promoting tourism, especially as you said wildlife protection is not purely depend on the tourism ministry activity, it depends on the other ministries as well. So therefore we have to have a coordinated, integrated effort to protect the wildlife by giving the right understanding of the people that this is for you, not for us. If you protect the elephant, if you protect the tigers, or if you protect the wildlife, you will get more income.
Dr. Silva, let's move out from wildlife and let's move on to the more urban and civilized areas, so to speak. Now you said that a lot of hotel chains are coming up and we're talking about big numbers of tourists coming in. There is obviously a bigger target for 2025. The question is, yes, making these targets are quite good, but like I said, now the question, the big massive question is the country's infrastructure development in par with what we're actually achieving for?
Yeah, that is very important question. Accessibility is very important factor for routes and supply, what we are teaching for our students. That has a problem actually.
Exactly, no, so like you're teaching this to your students.
Yes.
These are basic principles.
Yeah, basic principle, 4 A's, 5 A's, accessibility, amenity, attraction, affordability and accommodations. So when you look at accessibility, there is a problem actually. Now example, public transport is very poor conditions, and even three-wheelers actually have no proper guideline regulations, and even the people must understand that having good hospitality for tourists, they would be coming more and more, and they would be spend more and more money. But example, now when I went to Japan, I met one person. I asked, why you are so hospitality for us? He said, because you are foreigner. We are foreigner. We know that you are staying more days in Sri Lanka with happy mood. You spend more.
Absolutely.
So that is what we want to convince the people. This is good for you, making happy tourist. You take short-term benefit, but long-term you can get more than this. But for this one, universities and other education institutions must come forward and make a huge awareness for the people. Okay, this is your valuable industry. You have to protect it. You have to protect. You have to make perform certain guidelines and ethic of operating the tourism business. That is very important.
Well, Dr. Suranga Silva, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsfirst in Focus. As much as I would like to talk to you for hours and hours about this particular subject, because it's of much interest to me, but unfortunately time is of the essence, so we have to wrap up. That was Dr. Suranga Silva, a very eminent personality in the field of tourism. Like I said, like Dr. Silva said, rather, do the simple things in life, do your research before marketing a product, and more rather, look to the stars, collect a jar of air. This has been Newsfirst in Focus. I'm Shahin Charampati. Good night.